Hey everybody, it's Payton Taylor, and you're listening to Recess with Spinelli.
You were tuned in to Recess with Spinelli here on WSPN 91.1 FM, Skidmore Radio. And today we are here in Indianapolis, Indiana, at the 8 Second Saloon with Payton Taylor. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, thanks so much.
So I understand this is your first time back on the road in quite a while because you were on American Idol, and now you're getting your feet wet back playing music live again, right?
Yes, playing live has always been, it was my first love. It's what got me into wanting to make music in the first place. So, American Idol was so cool to be a part of, but after a while, cameras following you around are kind of weird. So I just really wanted to get back on stage. I had just been craving it so much, and we got to finally get back out there tonight for the first time, and this will be the start of a whole bunch of more.
So you're saying cameras kind of pull you out of the moment a bit as opposed to not having cameras on stage?
It's always so weird when someone's walking around filming you and you don't know what's going on. I didn't know if I was, had something in my teeth or, something crazy like that. You're always hyper aware. There's a camera next to me, but on stage, everything's very real. And like tonight, my necklace flew off, and it was cool because it was live. And you can make some mistakes, and sometimes in those mistakes, there's magic.
Oh, and I thought you pulled that off intentionally.
Oh, I would have had to been really strong. Oh gosh, I never got my necklace back. No, my $7 necklace. Actually, it was on sale. It's okay, but I still want it back. We'll have to go get it. You'll be in the photo pit. You can go grab it for me, right?
Yeah.
It did make for a good stage moment, right, though?
It did.
Yeah, it just flew right off. Thankfully, it didn't hit anybody.
So briefly, for the folks who might not be familiar with what American Idol is, or might not have caught up on that in well over the decade it's been around or so, what exactly is the process work, and what was your process going through it, as far as you can tell?
Gotcha. Well, I watched American Idol as a kid back when it was Kelly Clarkson and Justin Guarini, and a lot of people watched the show. It was first of its kind, made some superstars like Carrie Underwood, and then the show went away for a while, and then it came back. And the first year it came back, my sister, who was on stage with me tonight on percussion, she auditioned, and I played guitar for her. And when I played guitar for her, they asked if I would sing as well. And that led to a super awkward moment. So you can just go ahead and YouTube that, American Idol Sisters. It's the first thing that comes up. And that was kind of what kicked off the experience of going on the show. And it was a lot of fun. I got to meet a lot of friends. But man, do I miss playing live. I'm just glad to be back and hitting the road. Minivan miles, I guess you could say.
Did it open any doors for you, get any connections, or enable you to set up these tours a bit more easily?
Well, I sang originals for each round, which I thought was really neat. And unfortunately, none of them aired. Even though we went to top 40, none of the originals got aired. So I was hoping that, America was going to get to hear these originals that we have on Spotify and Apple Music that we worked so hard on in the studio. And unfortunately, they didn't get aired for whatever reason. So now I guess you gotta stream them or come out and see us to hear them. But I think at the end of the day, that makes a lot more of an impression to actually get out and go to these towns and meet all these new people who become your friends. That's my favorite part of it.
Actually, so on stage, you did a marvelous job mixing covers and your originals together. They sounded lovely. Would you say that towns like Nashville, do they push more towards original music, or does it push more towards just hearing kind of jukebox tracks?
It really depends. If you play in the writers' circles, writers' rounds is what they call them. It's something very special, very unique to Nashville, like the Bluebird Cafe. I've played there. It's just iconic. Best writers in the world write there. People from all over the world come to Nashville just to write, and that's why I love the town so much. Then you go to a different part of town, like Broadway, and you'll hear more covers. And that's, I think that definitely has its place too if you want to have a good time. And also, that's kind of where I got started playing on Broadway, because it was the best education to playing live and learning songs quick and on the fly and playing for 4 hours, no breaks. Like a marathon runner, you have to get your stamina up. So I think both sides of the town have really helped me out since moving there 5 years ago.
Now, I was looking at the American-born credits, and it looks like you co-wrote that song.
I did.
Does that offer new opportunities? Does it make it a little bit more difficult trying to collaborate with somebody else? What does that bring to the songwriting table, if you will?
Co-writing is funny. Luckily, the two guys that I wrote American Born with, I've been writing with them for a while. Wade Kirby and Phil O'Donnell. They've written some monsters like I Saw God Today, like really big shoes to fill. They've become very good mentors of mine and friends. But sometimes when you sit down for a writing session, it's people liken it to a blind date. You sit down and you immediately right off the bat have to start pouring your heart out to a stranger you just met. And that's just the most Nashville thing. And sometimes, it works and you get a second, quote unquote date or another write. Or sometimes it just ends horribly and you just say, well, that was fun. Probably won't do that again. But luckily, I've been writing a lot with Wade and Phil, and they helped me write both American Born and Whiskey on My Wings, the two tracks that are available on streaming and Spotify and Apple Music. So once you strike up those relationships, magic can really kind of grow from there.
Well, the vocals on American Born definitely brought me in when I first started doing research for this interview.
Thank you.
Now, are you classically trained, or is this all self-taught?
So that's really funny you say that. I was classically trained as a kid. My mom, I don't think I've ever had this question asked. This is awesome. My mom my mom's not musical, but she worked, she did finance and books for a theater company. So when I was little, I got free lessons. We learned from the Italian books and all that good stuff of how to sing properly and healthily and safe. But then what got me into country music was the songs. I mean, there's something so special about being able to tell a story with a song, and that's what completely made up my mind that was the route I wanted to go.
So how does country music, or what stories are told in country music versus other genres?
Well, let's see.
If there's a difference.
Gosh, well, there's a saying, and it's overused so much, but I think it's used a lot because it's true. They say country music is 3 chords and the truth. And I love that saying so much because sometimes the truth isn't super pretty. And I think what I always loved was that the country songs that I listened to, like Jolene, anything Dolly Parton, Emmylou Harris, Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, there was heartbreak. It wasn't always so sweet and sugar, where I felt like some of the other music was very sweet and sugar, and I love that yin and yang to both of it. It's the truth. And then 3 chords, which I'm not an incredible guitar player. I can do 3 chords, so that's what I knew I could do that part. It's just always finding the truth that you need to write about when it comes to doing the songs.
Gold record signs will blind you, and boys who can sing with guitars, you try to fit in with the in crowd by changing who you are. Oh, it's a rhinestone world.
Now, you're originally from New Jersey, correct?
Correct.
So are folks a little bit surprised when they find out that you're from up north and you're a Yank and you're singing country music? Is that an oddball for some folks?
I've tried to explain to people I'm from New Jersey, but from South Jersey. And people are like, oh, that's funny. But it really should be a different state. And I will do a change.org petition for this. It is just, think of North Jersey as New York, and then everyone just thinks it's all New York. But I liken it to this. If you ever watched The Sopranos back in the day, I was too young when it first came out, but I watched the whole series with my very Italian family. When Chris and Paulie chase the Russian through the Pine Barrens where there's nothing, that's where I'm from. Whole pine trees, nothing, and then the beach. So that's where I'm from. So I mean, it's a little more rural country than I think people think if they haven't been up there. People who are from Jersey go, oh yeah, South Jersey. You're from South Jersey. So, it is what it is. I mean, I got into music because of the songs, but the only reason I would have ever heard the songs was because of my grandfather and his record collection, because he had some great stuff in there. So that's how I was introduced to all that music.
So what are some, when you initially moved to Nashville, was there initial culture shock coming from the north going to the south?
I have to say, I really enjoyed it. We went back and forth a lot as a kid in a minivan. We slept in a minivan a bunch of times, going back and forth, sleeping at a gas station. And, what I always loved whenever we would make those trips was I loved the pace. Jersey, New York, all that. It's very quick. So I really enjoyed the pace difference. And especially Nashville, there's something really electric about the energy of the city. So I feel like it's very inspiring because any night of the week you can go downtown and see the best of the best players because they're all in one spot. And constantly it's always pushing you to what can I improve. It doesn't let you rest on your laurels.
Actually, so speaking of Nashville, so I've done a lot of traveling, but I haven't been to Nashville yet.
Really?
So what would be some of the ways you would describe the city to someone who hasn't been there?
Okay, so I'll describe it because there's different little boroughs or neighborhoods. Lower Broadway, that's what a lot of people associate Nashville with, the honky tonks and tootsies. Think bachelorette parties. For some reason, I don't know when Nashville became the bachelorette capital of the world, but great players down there as well. The best bands you've ever heard, and a lot of bachelorette parties everywhere. So it is just one big party down there. But then once you get into the side of town where these writers' rooms like the Bluebird or a listening room cafe, you can go in on any given night and hear the guy who wrote Friends in Low Places and hear about what inspired him to write that, on what day of the week, what he did that day. He told me he went to an O'Charlie's and wrote it because he skipped church. Like, where else would you know that? That's what I think's the cool part of it. I feel like the whole town, when you step away from the honky tonks, which are definitely a fun time, do not get me wrong, you can find these little hidden gems where if you really appreciate not just music but also the process and the history, you can just unearth so many diamonds in the rough there.
Actually, speaking of hidden gems, what are some of the diamonds in the rough in music that keeps you going, and keeps you writing, keeps you performing on stage?
There's a lot of it's funny because when you play a show, when you're done and you step off stage, there's this just happy feeling of just doing what you love, and it's chasing that feeling. I don't want to say it's addictive because I don't want to liken it to addiction, but you're always chasing it. You're always chasing that feeling of walking off or being on stage, because everything just really goes away. And I tell my mom a lot, it really breaks my heart, 'cause she's not musical, that you'll never know what that feeling is like. Because she'll see the hard days, the days where, you get a no, or the days where it feels like a door closes, and she'll see that, and she'll always be the first one to push me to keep going forward. She'll believe in me sometimes more than I'll believe in myself. Not that she's a momager. She's just that kind of mom, when I get home, let me make you some pasta and let's keep going kind of thing. We're not going to stop. She will not stop. She has never quit in her blood, so hopefully that rubbed off on me. But I just think it's that feeling. It's absolutely that feeling of being up there.
Have you found a way to try and translate that feeling to your audience when you're performing live?
I think that's one of the hardest things as a performer, because when you're up there, it would be very easy to get up in your own little world. It would be very quick, very easy to do that, to get very lost in what you're doing. And I think the greatest performers are the ones who can completely, instead of internalizing it, project it out to the people who are there, and put everybody in that frame of mind where time freezes and problems go away. Those are my favorite musicians. I ones that come to mind are Dolly. I saw Dolly, and she just transported people. And it's by no means am I saying that I'm an expert at doing that. That takes, like Dolly, decades of working on. But I think the day that I can nail that will be really special.
Hope this chasing ultimately takes you.
I've had a lot of people say, if you make it, when you get big, and those are all very sweet. And I thought about that recently, especially with coming off of American Idol. What is making it, and what is, having success. And honestly, I think it just comes down to, do you get to make your music? Do you get to say what you need to say? It's not something it's not something you like it. It's something you need to. It's in your DNA, and it's just something you have to do. It's just something you absolutely have to do.
Well, speaking of your music, at the current moment, how many songs you have released? Just 2, or?
Yes, right now we have just 2. We have American Born, which you heard tonight, and also Whiskey on My Wings, which you heard tonight. And we have a bunch more songs kind of in the barrel, so to speak. We're just kind of waiting on the right time to put those out. You heard some of those tonight, and some of them we haven't played out yet. But all those hours of being in a writer's room and writing with strangers, I think, is paying off a little bit, so that makes me happy.
Any goal when some new material can be released, or like a full LP or an EP?
The biggest trend is everyone's just kind of rolling out one song after the next single by single. I'm still an album lover, and the day when I can do a full LP like old school back in the day, I would love that. Right now, I think we're just kind of going one song at a time, so just kind of letting each song have its life. As an independent artist, it's basically you and the people who connect with your music. That's the team. You don't have a bunch of people in cubicles calling about your song. The song's life depends on the people who stream it, come out to a show, buy a t-shirt, something like that. That's what keeps the songs alive. And it's really empowering to, as an independent artist, that everything you do is on your back. It's scary. It's really scary. But those victories are really sweet too, when you know that it worked out.
To empower this music, what are some upcoming shows that folks can go to on this tour?
Things in Nashville, CMA Fest will be coming up too. That's a really fun time. So you can come by. We'll be doing some fan party stuff, and the best place to go would be PAYTONTAYLOR.com. P-A-Y, by the way, PAYTON Taylor.com. That has all of our tour dates coming up, and they're just coming in one by one. The one thing that I was nervous about after American Idol was that, when you're off the show, they ask you to not, you can't really book anything, or book any shows. But, ever since I came home, the phone started ringing, and we were right back where I wanted to be. So I'd love to see you guys out on the road. It's been way too long. It feels like I'm ready to get back and put some miles on the car, and I really would love to see everybody.
And is there anything else that you would like to add, and anything else that you think is important?
Well, I think what's really important is, I guess if I could say anything, if you listen to music, stream it. Tell a friend about it. I mean, I'd love you to listen to mine, but there's just such a wealth of music out there, and it's right at our fingertips. I mean, you and I grew up, first having to buy cassettes and then CDs. So just there's a dumb hashtag I came up with called stream it like you mean it. So yeah, I guess I'll leave you with stream it like you mean it, because those 0.006 of a cent, something like that, they do add up, and they really do make a difference. So y'all really can make the difference in the careers of these unknowns who are just traveling in minivans around the country.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Alexander.
You have been listening to Recess with Spinelli here on WSPN 91.1 FM, and we've been speaking with Payton Taylor here in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved one big old hot mess like me.